The feeling would never be mutual, but I miss seeing you very much.
It is.
Hope everything's going well enough for you.
It's fun. The best we can do, you know?
That's right. Thank you. Good seeing you, Amy.
You too. Yeah. You know. Yeah, I'm probably gonna see you. My grandma would always say, how do you recognize him?
It's 7:30. Time to call the meeting to order. This is Tuesday, October 20th. This is a regular meeting of the Norwalk City Schools Board of Education. Call the order. Roll call, please, Mrs. DuPont.
Mr. Linder?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Here.
Mr. Stellinger? Here. Mrs. Witt?
Here.
Thank you. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll ask for adoption of the agenda. Before we get a vote, is there any additions or corrections or deletions? We're up to date. Okay. Okay. A motion to adopt the agenda as we have received it.
I move to adopt the agenda as is.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mrs. Wick. Any other discussion on it? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Linder?
Yes.
Mrs. Wick?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Stellinger?
Yes.
Okay, item number 2, special presentation. We have Robert Ward here tonight from the Huron County Veteran Services. Robert, it's all yours.
Test, test. Oh, wow, it works. Okay. That's good. I won't put anybody to sleep. Members of the school board and Superintendent Fisk, faculty members, and folks in the audience, good evening, and thank you for having us at your meeting. We're here tonight to do a pretty special presentation out of our sheer gratitude for one of the members in your school district who did a fantastic job. In a year that's been so controversial and tough for everybody, we don't often get to do something fun or something good. And that's recognizing the good deeds that some of our community members are doing. So luckily tonight, thank you again for having us at your meeting. We're gonna accomplish this here in just a moment. I would like to introduce some of the folks that are here from our office. We have our commission president, Mr. Jerry Huffman, representing the DAB, Commissioner Mindy Soyson Calhoun, representing the American Legion, Director Matt Raymond, our outreach coordinator, Cheryl Fout, and our multiple task individual, Mr. Kerry Ashby, who most of you know. With that said, on or about the third week of August, our commission met to have their regular commission meeting. And at that time, in the third week of August, our commission had recognized that there was no effort to do any kind of 9/11 remembrance ceremony or Patriot Day ceremony in the community. As such, the commission took it upon themselves to go ahead and give the okay to put one together. That did not leave us much lead time in our planning factors, but still we pushed forward and reached out to multiple folks. One of those folks being one of your administrators. We did not give her much time to plan in this, and yet still she stepped up and put forth a fantastic effort as our keynote speaker. In addition to being our keynote speaker, she provided a perspective that was in 19 years not really heard. I can tell you as a service member myself, as most of my colleagues are as well, 19 years, we've heard a lot of perspectives about 9/11. And the perspective that she gave that day was bar none one that had not ever been heard, at least by me and my colleagues. And it's a perspective that should be heard. And it was a phenomenal speech. For those that weren't there, it's important to probably highlight some of the points that she pointed out in her speech. She started out with recognizing that on August 28th, 2001, Norwalk High School had just opened. And that school year, you guys were opening the doors to students in this facility for the first time. The PAC, unfortunately, as we stand in here now, TVs and internet were not yet quite complete. So when the events of 9/11 unfolded, she goes on to state that there were some moments of students that kind of heard whispers or shared whispers of things that were going on, but nobody really understood what was happening. It's interesting when we take technology for granted. Today, that never would have happened. Yet she overcame that with her little CD player that had AM, FM radio on it. And she continued to work through waiting till CBS Radio or CBS News gave some sort of report. She goes on to discuss the initial shock by her and her students and the information gathering that went on, that they shared together as they shared the nation's tension together. She goes on to also state that as the day went through, she spoke to her mom at some point, and her mom did offer to put the VHS into the VCR and record the news for her, which she told her, which she felt at that time was unnecessary, because by the time she spoke to her mother, the visual graphic aid of the planes crashing into the buildings had already been ingrained in her mind. She continues to state in her speech that the kids would go back to doing traditional high school things, but a newness hung over, and the addition of names like Homeland Security and Operation Enduring Freedom became part of their lives. I did pull a final quote from her speech because it's one that resonated, and it's kind of how she ended her speech. Life went on for the senior class at Norwalk High School, but there were extra flags waving at sporting events, and students witnessed members of their families and community leaving to secure their country. When the new building saw its first graduation ceremony in June of 2002, the 9/11 events were still fresh. But then, as now, we saw the beautiful resilience of youth and the American people. That was, as veterans and community members that were in attendance to that ceremony, that was pretty powerful. I can tell you that that resonates, and I hope that resonates with all of you here tonight. We're very proud of your administrator. I hope as you are too. And tonight we'd like to recognize her just as a token of thanks, not just for stepping up to the plate, but having such a wonderful perspective, not just as a teacher, as a leader and educator of students, and as something that was shared with young minds that obviously you all have the end state of educating. And I think obviously you have the right people doing it, but that 9/11 ceremony educates every year as well. And I think she, for lack of better terminology, hit a home run when it comes to education. So thank you for sharing her with us. And without further ado, we will go ahead and recognize her. I'll ask my colleagues to come up. Tonight she will be receiving a certificate of appreciation from the Huron County Veteran Service Commission. We will read that citation shortly, as well as receiving a challenge coin that our office commission has. That challenge coin is, for those that don't know, it is a military tradition. It goes back very far, and we are proud to honor her tonight. And again, thank you for having us. The citation reads, Certificate of Appreciation to Miss Amy Swope for your contribution to the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony held Friday, September 11th, 2020 at the Huron County Memorial Park in Norwalk, Ohio. The office and audience were moved by your speech, in which you reflected on the tragic events of the 9/11 terrorist attack. We appreciate how you continued the important works of educating our youth while processing this life-changing tragedy. Signed, Jerry Huffman, Huron County Veteran Service Commission President, and Matthew Raymond, Huron County Veteran Service Office Director, CVSO.
Talking to us. It was one of the best speeches we had. Thank you so much.
It's a real pleasure. I was honored to be asked to speak, and I appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Thank you again. Yes.
And just before we exit out the back door, because you guys have to stay for your meeting, we don't, I'm just kidding. I am going to ask Kerry Ashby to come up here. He's going to say just a couple words, and then we'll be out of your hair. Thank you again for having us.
I'm going to be much more brief than Robert, which is actually not that difficult. It's really kind of unusual to stand here in front of the school board because I'm used to sitting there back there with my notebook. But again, I want to thank you for having Amy Swope come and do this important participation that she did in the 9/11 ceremony. As Robert said, she was absolutely eloquent. Her point of view was amazing, and not to repeat too much of what was in the certificate, I was just blown away, and it helped me get back in the moment of hearing her experience what she went through in 9/11, which was what the ceremony was all about, was to experience that. And what was amazing to me, and this was what was so great about having a teacher who was there, was as you are processing this horrific event and you're trying to make sense of it, get some right information, you also have to answer questions from students and help them make sense of it as well. So you were doing an amazing balancing act. And again, I just want to thank you. You've been very enthusiastic about being here, and we are much better people for hearing what you had to say at the 9/11 ceremony. So thank you once again. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Veteran Services. And thank you, Amy. And Amy is a very valuable and great administrator. Thank you again. Item number 3, public participation. Each person who wishes to address the board will be asked to give his or her name and address. Remarks should be limited to 3 minutes in length. After everyone who wishes to speak, there'll be an opportunity to add additional time if we need it. But we do set aside 30 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to address the board tonight?
Derek Figman, 110 Sycamore. Just in the, I guess, vein of celebration of great things that happened, there really is. Amy is an amazing administrator and an amazing teacher, and still is a teacher to many of us that is taking some of us that are teachers through these times that we're in. We can't celebrate her contributions enough. And there was another thing that happened tonight. The Second Harvest Food Bank, North Central Ohio, was at the middle school to pass out just an enormous amount of food. And it was an incredible sight to see so many people show up to get that food, as well as Gary Swartz and other NTA members there to help pass out the food. And I just thought it was an amazing thing to be a part of. I showed up just to help pass out some food, something that I didn't expect to be the extraordinary process and undertaking that was done by the National Guard as well as Second Harvest. So for the school to allow them to use our facilities and then get our membership there to help as well and be a part of that, I can't express how grateful I am to anybody that was involved in making that possible. And again, highlighting the Second Harvest, it was an amazing experience. So thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Anyone else who'd like to address the board tonight? Okay, item number 4, treasurer's report.
Okay, we have minutes, the regular meeting, September 15th, 2020. We have our September financial report. Property tax allocation arrived in September, rollback to homestead exemptions. It was based on the second half of 2019 tax. You'll remember the state pays 12.5% with the residential property tax for owner-occupied residential property, and the homestead, which is property owner 65 and over for disabled or surviving spouses. Also, you'll notice if you look at the comparison between this month, September, last month, the 2019 September salary and benefits expenses are a little bit less than last September. This is due to the CRF ESSER money that we received through the CARES Act. We've been using it to offset salaries for our remote teachers and salary items for additional one, even in the long term, we only got 0.5% interest. So going forward, I think we're going to move over to the STAR, State Treasury Asset Reserve, which is the state depository for government entities. It allows us to be more liquid with our deposits instead of locking them up long term. Then we have the school bus bid. We had two companies bid, Cardinal Bus, Truck Sales and Service. The bus from Truck Sales and Service wasn't actually a valid bid. They had bid it as a diesel pusher where the engine is in the back, and we had asked for the engine in the front. So it technically wasn't an actual bid. That was the one from Cardinal. And we did have an interesting discussion about it, but we were looking at doing electric buses. That's the new thing. And I just saw there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about how large trucks are good for electric battery operated when they have the short stops. So they garbage trucks, school buses, mail delivery, where you make a lot of stops. And that's something that Truck Sales and Service said that they are working on prototypes of. So maybe in the future it might be something that we'll be able to look at. There are rebates. We're applying for a rebate with the school bus bid that we've done right now through the US EPA. For the bus that we're replacing with the diesel engine, rebate, if we are awarded it, will be $20,000. If we were to do an electric battery bus in the future, the rebate on that would be $65,000. So that might be something really to look at down the road. Then we have our wellness stipend of $250 per building for each committee member and $500 for a wellness coordinator. This is funded by the wellness grant from the HESI Insurance Consortium, which we use to try to improve our employees' wellness. Then we have the MacBook series and Chromebook Arts Proposal. The MacBook series actually wasn't anything we had paid for. It was a double order that had been shipped, and then the publisher did not want it back because they didn't want to pay the shipping to bring it back. But we are looking to dispose of it. We're hoping to find someone that would like it. If not, we do have a textbook recycler that is going to take it. Next, we have our request for proposal for the food service management company. With our food service facility retiring, we're looking to do something maybe different, get all of our options available for food service. We are looking to get a request for proposal by food service management company. This would not change much of our day-to-day operations. We would still have our cooks and our cook helpers. It would just be more of the oversight, supervision, and ordering if we were to go with the company. Next, we need our OSBA virtual delegate. OSBA Capital Conference is being held completely virtual this year, and we do still need a delegate and a second to do the business meeting for OSBA. Next, we have auxiliary disposal. This is from Norwalk Catholic. They have crazy items that they're looking to dispose of, also textbooks. And then an anonymous donation of $500 for the middle school. This was, the donor asked to remain anonymous, but she sent a really nice letter that praised her middle school music teachers, especially Mrs. Vitro, and how it continued to impact her life. She marched and played in the 2019 Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. She currently plays in her local choir, and she just wanted to let everyone know that she was still appreciative for what she received in middle school. Mrs. Vitro set her up to play. So that was really a nice letter to get. I shared it with our music department. And that's all I have. Oh, I do have one last thing. We were notified from ODE that the National School Lunch Program is going to be able to continue to provide no-cost lunches for breakfast and lunch for our students the entire school year. Originally, we thought it was only going to be the end of the calendar year, but now they've extended it to the entire year. So we'll receive the federal reimbursement for that, and our students will be able to get breakfast and lunch no cost to them. So that was another good news. And that's all I have.
Okay, Joyce, we need a delegate, name of a delegate tonight.
Yes, we need a delegate and a second, please.
Last year Lisa did it. Did you do it last year, Lisa?
Yeah, the last couple, yeah. I
But-
can do it.
And a second?
Yeah, Marty? Dwayne? Dwayne, okay, Dwayne said he.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Motion to accept all items in the treasurer's report. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Do we have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Mellinger. Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Snellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Linder?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes.
Mrs. Wick?
Motion carries 5-0. Item number 5, personnel. Yes.
Under personnel items for approval, the first one's a very difficult one for me to recommend to you, but I'll do it anyway. The resignation of Kelly Ross as Director of Support Services for the purpose of retirement. I can't say enough the value that Kelly brings to our district and the history and knowledge that will walk out the door with her. Based on the nature of the position, I work with her so closely. I know she won't miss my calls at 4:30 in the morning when there's snow or fog, but I will definitely miss her help and guidance as we make a lot of those hard decisions in the mornings. Definitely big shoes to fill. The second one is stipends. Jessica Johnstone for study tables here at Norwalk High School, and Rhonda Rafe Snyder for Main Street Yearbook Advisor. Employment of classified staff, Deborah, Keith, and Kimberly joining our team. Employment of substitutes as listed, both classified and certified. Employment of supplemental contracts for the winter sports season from Norwalk High School. We have conditioning, basketball, and bowling at Main Street, our student council. Number 6, special contracts. Norwalk High School here, boys basketball, girls basketball, cheerleading, wrestling, swimming, and bowling. At the middle school, boys basketball, wrestling, girls basketball. And number 7, our volunteer coaches, who we can't say enough about our appreciation for the time that they invest to help our student athletes from basketball and wrestling.
Motion to accept all items under personnel. Thank you, Mrs. Wick. Do we have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Snellinger. Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Wick? Yes. Mrs. Snellinger?
Yes.
Mr. Linder?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Superintendent's reports.
Under superintendent reports, we have 2 items for approval. The first is to modify our approved school calendar with the addition of the listed 2-hour delays. The purpose for these delays, as we've started through this COVID pandemic version of school, we've asked a lot of our teaching staff. We've taken, I would say 99% of the time that they have to accomplish many of the things we need them to accomplish in terms of student achievement. Our staff members, from the time they get to school until the time they go home, have students in front of them the entire time. So we've eliminated a lot of the time that they've had to collaborate, to create lessons together, to create assessments of our students together, to keep their grade levels and departments together. So I'm asking you to approve those 2-hour delays as listed. And B would be a mistake that I had made when we, at the last minute, changed our start date. We moved the calendar back a week. Our NTA collective bargaining agreement requires that in-service date to be moved from January 15th to January 22nd, which coincides with the end of our first semester. The second one there is a middle school cross-country team to attend the Ohio Middle School Cross-Country Championships, which will be held on Sunday, October 24th. And since it's a Sunday event, they require board approval for that. And those are all of the items under superintendent's reports.
Motion to accept all items under superintendent's reports. Thank you, Mr. Linder. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Linder?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzenthaler?
Yes?
Mrs. Snellinger?
Yes.
Mrs. Wick? Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. The Hobie News.
Movie news. My meeting was last week, so I actually have some things to talk about. They're gonna start, in person 5 days, starting this coming Monday. We had a ribbon cutting for the fire department and police department area. And also got to see the culinary arts, department firsthand. Top of the line, I know they had classes for adults and children in the future. I highly recommend if you have an opportunity to go out there. It's an impressive site. I mean, you're gonna sign up about classes. But that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wick. Legislative report.
Nothing there.
Anything else before we ask for adjournment?
We have, for November, the meeting is on the 12th. We had moved it because of capital conference, and we actually set our meeting for Thursday. So I didn't know if we still want to keep it Thursday, move it to Tuesday, keep it Thursday. I do it on Thursday.
We can move it back if you want.
It doesn't, I mean, I'm fine either way. I just wanted to make sure.
Whatever the matter. Which is better for you, George?
We can stick with Thursday. I just want to make sure everybody knows that it's.
I would rather keep it. I think it's the date that's out there.
So the next board meeting is November 12th. Is that correct? Anything else?
If I could just share, I just wanted to comment on, how the 5 days a week has gone for us. If you remember, and I'm sure you didn't forget, that we made a quick transition from hybrid to 5 days a week. And I can't thank our staff, our students especially, and our families enough for the way in which they've embraced the protocols that we have for COVID and have allowed us to get off to an amazing start. As we knew, we would have COVID, we would have positives, we would have some quarantines, which we've had, but our schools are operating phenomenally. I ran into some students here at Norwalk High School last week, and I just looked at them and I said, so how are you guys doing with all this? And I kind of, motioned to my mask. And one student looked at me and said, I'm just happy to be in school. So we made the right decision in going to 5 days a week. None of us can predict what winter or the future or spring will hold. But I think this move to 5 days a week has been just what we all needed. It's definitely what the students have needed. And I just thank everyone for making it possible. And I ask our community to continue to do their due diligence with their COVID procedures so that we can keep the numbers down and keep our students in school 5 days a week.
Anyone else? A motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mrs. Smellinger. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Wick. Roll call?
Stellinger? Yes. Mrs. Wick?
Yes.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yeah.
Mr. Rittenhouse?
Yes. You're adjourned, 5-0. Thank you, everybody, for coming.